Hello, my name's Debbie Digby, and I'm the interim president for the NHBF. And I'm joined on the sofa today by Fiona Johnston.
Hello, hi.
Fiona, congratulations, because you are the president that has been elected by the members. You take your office on July the 6th. It will be my great pleasure to be handing over to you that president baton. And we're here today to talk a little bit about your presidency and some of your goals and things that you want to work on during your tenure.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Privileged to be here, thank you. And I'm delighted as well. So a big thank you to anybody and everybody that voted for me as well.
Fiona, I know that you've got your 4 pillars, which are your personal goals that you want to work on once you after July the 6th, once you're the president. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I kind of thought if I had 4 pillars, then it could concentrate and focus everything around that area and create more strategy working forwards. And I'll just go through them. I would like to see more VAT reform. Our industry is very labour intensive, and it's heavily taxed because of the breakdown in costs. And we have campaigned for years, but I think we need to campaign. We need to create a louder voice, and we need to turn the volume up and try to get the ear of Caesar within government across all the nations, not just in Westminster, because I think we may be able to get change in other areas that would influence changes in Westminster. So that's kind of my aim for that. Apprenticeships as well. I'm really passionate about apprenticeships. I have apprentices in my salon. I believe in training for the future, having people get the proper skills so that they have opportunities, and even if they don't remain in the industry, they get great transferable skills that they can use in life and in other work. So I'm really passionate about apprenticeships, and I think that, again, we need to be lobbying for more apprenticeship places, for more funding for the salons, and just support in general so that the industry can continue to thrive. And then fair pay. We've had a lot of pay increases recently from the government, that's been quite difficult for a lot of the salons. People have had to think about the value of what they provide, and they've actually had to put a higher price tag on it. And it's a difficult thing to do, and the client is not always comfortable with price changes, but I think what we do for communities should never be underrated. How we make people feel should never be underrated. There are many things that we do that's additional parts of our service, not just the haircut. So I'm really passionate about getting a bit more respect for the industry as well, so that when people do have to put their prices up to have fair pay, that they're able to do that and feel comfortable doing that as well, and they're encouraged to do that so that they can grow. And if they grow, then we have the VAT issue again. So it's kind of like a big circle. And I think if we can just continue to move around that, trying to create change, then perhaps we can elevate the whole circle and create a better environment for the industry.
Okay. Let's talk about some of those things. So your salon, Fiona, is in Edinburgh. Fiona's salon is Trig in Edinburgh. And you employ how many people in the salon?
I've got 6 employees in the salon. A couple of years ago, we were struggling, and we went into a niche market of curly hair, and we have grown and grown and grown since then. We now have a coaching company training other salons around the country how to grow their niche business as well. So yeah, it's been a really exciting 3-year journey over the past 3 years. And again, I love doing the coaching work with salons because it can inspire them to grow as well. And help the staff develop new skills too.
Okay. And of course, the NHBF covers 4 nations.
Yes.
So, and I know you've worked during COVID, you worked with the Scottish government.
Yeah.
Um, so that's something you're used to. I'm interested in finding out a little bit about, how you will help the NHBF in Wales, in England, and in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, so I work closely with the head of policy within the NHBF, and
That's Sam Silver.
yes, and we have an advisory board that I chair, and we've worked closely together on developing new strategies for covering all the 4 nations. And Sam has done a great project over this election period for Scotland and Wales during this last elections, and also um, following the councillor elections in England as well. Because quite often you can get the ear of Caesar through the council, then through the MP or the MSP. So it's important that you have all of these contacts saved and that you create that database that you can then start contact. And we have a great new initiative where Sam is going to try and locate NHBF members in the areas that we are maybe not covering currently, so that we can ensure that we get NHBF members to get the lobbying done where it needs done in the different nations.
Wow.
So I'm really excited for that, because I think it's great to involve the members more, and there's lots of expertise out there that we can use when we're lobbying for any of the 4 pillars that we're going to try and focus on. So it's a really exciting project, and yeah, Sam's working hard on it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So, NHBF members who are interested in lobbying their local MPs can get involved with Sam, and he'll help them. It'll either be a response that Sam's had, and so he'll find somebody, or if any NHBF members are interested in something like that, then we can see whether there's a contact that we can help them go and lobby their local MP on behalf of the hairdressing industry.
Absolutely. And I think Sam would be delighted if anybody wanted to be in touch with him if they were interested. Um, and then he can have a look at the areas that would be good for them to attend something on behalf of the industry and have that opportunity, because nobody knows better what's going on in the salons than the people that are working there. Whether it's beauty, hair, or aesthetics, it's,
And barbering.
and barbering, of course, yes. I mean, if you're there and you're doing it, you know what you need help for. So really would encourage members to get in touch with Sam if they're interested in helping. It might not be going into government. It might be pairing you up with your local MP.
Yeah, like
instead of
MP surgeries and
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. And just getting you in there to speak to the right people, or inviting them to come to your
Your
salon.
business, yeah. Yeah. I had an MP come to my business last year, and it was, or it may have been the year before, but it doesn't matter. It's great to do that, because you really get the opportunity then, don't you, to share, and you feel like you're being listened to, and
Yeah.
you're able to
I think
get the point across.
You're creating awareness. And I think a lot of people are not aware of all of the wraparound care that a hairdresser gives, or a barber, or a beauty therapist, or an aesthetics practitioner. So I think that's always the thing that surprises everybody that visits a salon, is all of that peripheral things happen all the time. It's not something we have to do, we just do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think they're always surprised with the community aspect that's in the salon as well. And then they start to understand why people gravitate towards that as a comfortable place and a safe place to come. And yeah, and it really is an eye opener. And I would encourage anybody that has the time to get involved and invite their MP
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah.
So that's great. So the NHBF are not only working with Westminster, but also with the devolved governments
Yes.
as well, which is really important because there's quite a lot of difference often, isn't there, in policy between one central government and those devolved governments. So it's great to have Sam as the expert in house, of course, because that really helps us as an organisation stay ahead of and abreast of everything that's happening. Now, you mentioned there, Fiona, about advisory board. You mentioned the policy advisory board, but the NHBF have other advisory boards. Let's test ourselves and see if we can. But we have a membership advisory board. We have as you mentioned, the policy advisory board, and then we also have the quality and standards advisory board, which deals a lot with education and stuff like that. And those advisory boards meet. Oh, yes, and the marketing advisory board. Now, those advisory boards, they meet, they discuss, and their ideas and feedback is then fed to the board so that the board can make good decisions on behalf of the members and the wider industry. How would an NHBF member get involved with an advisory board?
Well, again, I think they could just contact the head office here and let them know that they're interested. So probably through Tina as the membership director to ask to have their information passed on to the relevant member of staff for each advisory board.
Yeah.
And I think it's really good that the information is shared directly with the board from the advisory boards, because everybody on the advisory board gives their time up, they're volunteers, they come in, and I think it's really important that people who give their time feel valued. And if you feel valued, you only feel valued if you're heard. So it's really reassuring for the people that sit on these boards to know that their discussions are going into the strategy for the NHBF moving forward.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So let's talk a little bit about VAT, because it has been a hot topic. It's still a hot topic, not just in our industry, but in other industries too. Tell me a little bit about VAT reform and the work that you want to see done, the work you want to do, Fiona.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to look broader. We need to look to the whole high street and see what's happening in the high street, because we're always claimed to be the backbone of the high street. So if we're the backbone of the high street, who else is there? So you have hospitality sitting alongside us. And, during COVID, hospitality had the VAT break. We didn't. It just went to show that the VAT break could happen. And I think that gives people hope. But at the moment, the government are very resistant to doing anything like that. So what we need to do is we need to work with the hospitality industry, and we need to see what they're campaigning for as well, and then have some kind of collaboration where we go, we're the high street, you need to represent all of us, and then possibly looking in on retail as well to see, what their situation is. But I think when it comes to labour costs, your retail have much fewer labour costs in the shops. The hospitality have less labour costs than us. We are still the most labour intensive on the high street. So I think it's important when we say we want to have respect for our industry, that we have to let everybody know what that looks like. And I think that having that kind of comparisons and being part of a collaborative high street campaign, it helps advise ministers where the most help is needed. You know what I mean? And also, when you're more labour intensive, you're employing more people. So that's got to be good as well for the government. So they need to take that into mind as well. So I think working collaboratively on the high street is really important. Being aware of what happens internationally as well. If you go to Ireland, for example, they have different VAT rates. They have a reduced rate, and in Holland there was a reduced rate that was then reviewed 2 years later. And even though the government was making less money, they looked at how many people were being employed and the education benefits and the skills benefits, and they decided that that outweighed the loss in income. So I think just being aware what's happening in other places in other countries, you can use that to strengthen your case, and it gives a wider approach coming into a narrower suggestion when you're doing lobbying. So yeah.
So our industry, particularly over the last 5-6 years, has undergone a big change in the way that people choose to work. Their worker status, if you like. Um, and we do have within the industry a lot of self-employed people. By the way, I'm self-employed, but I also employ currently around 50 people. So, but I'm talking here about the self-employed, independent people, and it's a big part of our industry, and a lot of our NHBF members fall into that category. And that, for the most part, that doesn't really apply to them at all. Um, so a 10% reduction in VAT wouldn't really affect them in any way, except for it would make the industry stronger. So from that point of view, but in terms of the independent hairdressers, um, what would be the position on VAT reform from their perspective?
Well, I think that if we got a reduction in VAT, exactly what you've said, um, their perspective would remain the same. And a lot of people that go self-employed, that have been employed, do that because they think that's a better route for them. It suits them better for flexibility. It suits them better for having time off, maybe for family and things like that, that they maybe don't get quite so much flexibility in the workplace for. So I think as long as that's not disadvantaging them, then we have to look at the whole four pillars, because most of the self-employed people are maybe not training the apprentices as much as the employed salons are. So you're having to join all the dots up and go, if we can get VAT reform for the people who are creating the most training, then that's going to create more skilled people who then have a choice what they do. So I think that you can't please everybody all the time. I think you don't want to disadvantage anybody, but you do want to try and keep the industry thriving. And to keep it thriving, we've got to train people. And so the biggest way to get the most use out of the apprenticeship numbers that all of the parties are saying they're going to give to apprenticeships is to provide places to train them. But I do think they need to provide support for the salons that are doing that as well. And maybe look at a way that, some of the self-employed solo members could be training or be part of training as well. Because if you've got a huge chunk of your industry that are self-employed and not training anybody, then that is that's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because many of those people are really, really highly skilled, and so if there could be change through that as well, I don't know what that looks like. Again, that's the kind of things that we would discuss in advisory boards, both in the education advisory board that you mentioned earlier and the policy board, because unless we go with ideas, then there is no change.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the government dictates apprenticeships, VAT reform, fair pay. They dictate all that to us. So if you want to be part of that, then you've got to have a voice.
Yeah. You mentioned apprenticeships there. Let's talk a little bit about apprenticeships. I know it's something that you're really very passionate about. So what what do you want to see and achieve around apprenticeships?
So I'm going to reveal my age now because I did an apprenticeship when it was a YTS scheme. And that's a very long time ago. But if I'd not had that opportunity to do that apprenticeship, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have had 40 years experience in hairdressing industry. And um, and I think probably my peer group for 5 to 7 years from my start in my apprenticeship and on, um, there's a huge majority of them that came out of the YTS scheme. And for anybody that's unfamiliar with that, the government they gave us wages. And so the employer didn't pay us, the government paid us. And when I started first, I got £1 an hour. And then I went on to my YTS scheme and I think it was £48 a week. But the government paid me that. My employer didn't pay me that. And I got money for my bus. It was very exciting. And if we looked at that as something to try and achieve in today's world, when you're campaigning for fair pay, but what that does is takes away the funding that's in the salons to pay for the apprenticeships. And the apprentices' wages have gone up as well, so they're more expensive to employ. And we all believe in fair pay, but then the government needs to step in as well. We've had 9% increases, we've had 7% increases across 2 years. It's been very, very difficult if you're an employer.
Yeah.
But we can't not have apprentices because that's the future of the industry. So it's trying to find a balance where we could, campaign for more funding for the salons that are doing the training. And again, it's probably if somebody's self-employed and there's not an option for them to do that same route, they're not disadvantaged, but they're not advantaged. But again, they've made a choice for other reasons. You know what I mean? It's usually flexible reasons or personal reasons that people would transfer over to self-employed anyway. And I do think that the employed servants have a responsibility to keep training the apprentices. That's kind of how the system's set up currently. But we do need more support, financial support from the government. And the YTS scheme was a great scheme because everybody took on apprentices. There was twice as many apprentices where I was from than there ever had been before because the government was paying for it and everybody took the opportunity and every business did it because they were supported financially. So, yeah, in the ideal world, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, over the years, I too started an apprenticeship. A little bit before you. I'm 50 years in the industry next year. My apprenticeship was really quite different. We used to have indentured apprenticeships. Um, and my point of bringing that up is that over the word apprenticeships has been around a very, very long time, but over the decades, apprenticeships have looked different and in different ways. And I think one of the things that we, um, so the hairdressing industry, the NHBF, other industries that use apprentices, and the government, we've got to come up with a new way because, yes, fair pay is, it's a very important principle and foundation of work for anybody. But training is a different issue. So I really think that, work around those apprenticeships will be so valuable for the industry and, the future of the industry. There will, always be, young people that want to be hairdressers. Just in my academy last week, we had a 6-year-old in there, um, on a mannequin head on a stand. Wants to be a hairdresser one day. We have got to make sure that the opportunities are there to fulfill people's dreams and for the future proofing the industry. Okay, that's really great. And
I think as well, the other thing is that the apprenticeships are very different in the four nations. So, you know, it's important to realise that when people are doing training in England, then you have an end-on exam, and we don't have that in Scotland. And the amount of money that the training centres get from the government is different in the four nations as well. Um, However, the money that the salon owners get is pretty much the same everywhere. It's zero.
yeah,
So, and if you look at construction as another industry with apprenticeships, you get funded places. And I know the construction industry is, massive. However, they're training apprentices to do trades the same as we're training apprentices to do trades.
yeah.
So, um, I do think that that's another opportunity to compare and contrast when you meet your MP, or, when we have an opportunity to speak anywhere. It needs to be not pointed out, but brought to whoever's attention has given you their time, that everybody's being treated differently. And yet it's all an apprenticeship. It's all the same, skills training, the same basis, the same formula, but it's treated differently. So, yeah, I would like to see that.
Anything else you want to share about your 4 pillars?
Well, I think as well, I would love to see, um, some marketing to customers, to give them more insight into. They enjoy their experience. They have their wraparound care. A lot of them, they feel like you're their best pal. They tell you everything. Um, But I think the knowledge of what a hairdresser does to get to where they are, how many hours they work, how they work through the different tiers within their price list. I think having a wee bit more information out there, um, sort of instead of business to business, business to consumer. And I'll give you an example. So when there was a root cover touch-up powder, I'll not mention names, that was launched about 5 years ago, then they didn't launch it in the media for um, the industry. They launched it in Vogue, and they launched it in, um, all of the magazines for clients. And we were inundated on the back of that business to customer campaign with people wanting this product because they saw it and they'd heard all about it. And I think if we could launch some kind of campaign or information or something from the business to client, to help the client understand how much money it costs for the staff, how we train apprenticeships, and we don't actually get paid in the salon to do that. We do that and we make it work. Just a wee insight into how they got to enjoy their hair today had all of this going on behind it, because I think then when we do have to put our prices up, because we are having to put our prices up, to create fair pay and to give people opportunities in the salon to be promoted, they should go, that's amazing. Of course, I'll pay £5 more because Sarah's now going to be a senior stylist. That's incredible. Well done, Sarah. And not, and understand the value of that. And I think that's part of the respect aspect in the 4 pillars. The respect is from the government. It's having that more knowledge for everybody on what we actually do, because we make it look easy and we make everybody feel good. And so, yeah, a bit more insight into that would probably create a wee bit more respect for us, which would be amazing.
One of the things I'm really interested to hear about, Fiona, is collaboration with other organisations within our industry. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that's something that I'm really passionate about that. I mean, I said earlier, we want to turn up the volume on our voice as an industry. And the way that you do that is you gather voices. And if you can get many of the organisations to work together, um, then the government's going to listen more as well, because it's coming forward as one strong voice in agreement as well, which is amazing. And we've started working on various projects recently, which should make an inroad to starting to develop much more collaborative working, because I think that, there's so many good people out there doing lots of good things. Again, it's the same as taking all the new ideas from new board members. If we can collect and work together with other organisations, they've all got their members as well. You're getting more volume of voices because you're representing a bigger amount of people, and therefore you're representing more of the industry. And when it's done together, then it's more people are willing to join in, because some people might be part of one thing, not part of another. And it just gives everybody an opportunity. And I think at this point in time, if we want to make a big noise, we need a lot of voices.
One strong voice.
Yes.
I love it. So, post July the 6th, Fiona, you will be leading the board. And of course, the board work on behalf of the members. They set the strategy for the NHBF. And the board are undergoing some development and changes right now. So tell us a little bit about your board and what you want your board to achieve during your tenure.
Okay. So, yeah, it's going to be quite a few fresh new members in July, which will be good. That means fresh ideas. That means new input into the strategy. Um, we want to try and include all the areas as much as we can. We've touched on, that within the membership, people have different needs because they have different areas that they work in,
Yeah,
or different
business types.
different
Yeah.
business types, different employment types as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think it'll be really exciting to see what the new board members bring, what their ideas are, what they think we need to change from where we are. Because obviously, when you're setting a strategy, you're moving from where you're at to where you want to go. So I think there'll be a lot of opportunities for the new people coming in to feel part of that and be able to contribute a lot to it. We're really working closely with the senior management team now and their teams, and I think it's important that they're able to feed to the board as well their thoughts and ideas to add to the strategy. And then, of course, the advisory boards are crucial because that's an ongoing thing that happens either monthly, bi-monthly, or once a quarter, depending on which group you're working with. And all of that ideas need to feed into the strategy as well. So setting the strategy is quite a big responsibility for the board. And I just think the more people you can involve in setting that strategy or fine tuning that strategy once the board has done their overview on it, um, sets what we're going to do for the next 3 years. And I think it could be really exciting because I think there's so many fresh ideas out there we need to capture.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely an exciting time. Those bringing together a strategy of the advisory boards, working towards feeding into the board, who are going to set the strategy, and the senior management team and their teams all working together as one organisation the for the future of the NHBF and of the industry.
Yeah.
Fiona, I want to congratulate you on your presidency,
Yeah.
and uh, I'm excited to see what what you achieve during your time. And yeah, thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you.